All right, thank you very much, fellow Africans. I am once again profoundly honored. Good to see you. It's a new week that we still proceed with our Change for African campaign, a daily episode. So today, being on a Monday, we are doing our 31st episode, and on Monday, as always, we discuss about governance or the governance that we want in Africa. And so, as I had given you a glimpse of what we'll be discussing this week, I would love us to focus on the Africa Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. And so, being on Monday, we try to focus more so on governance and the impact of the style or the type of governance, that different countries in Africa are experiencing. So today, I would love us to touch on one of the key aspirations of the Africa Agenda 2063, or the Africa we want. And the agenda is agenda number 3, whereby it states that they want an Africa where we have good governance, an Africa where we have justice, respect for human rights, and rule of law, and so whereby they want to eliminate corruption and any other kind of fraud that undermines good governance. And so this is something that was adopted. The Africa Agenda 2063 was adopted in 2015 by the African Union, and meaning these are the heads of state and other key stakeholders in that. So if this is what they adopted as an African Union, and the bigger question remains, are we really having that thing adhered to until today? Because we are speaking about democracy, that they say no to corruption and withhold or be able to improve on their democracy as countries, because many of the African countries are democratic. And what does it mean to be a democratic country, as an African state? It means that the very people who have power who are the sovereign power are the majority, who are the ordinary citizens of a country. For this reason, or for this context, I'll term them the ordinary citizens of Africa, because many of the African countries are democracy. They are democracy systems, so it is a democratic system of governance, whereby the citizens or the majority have the say. They have the final say. And but looking at the present state of Africa in terms of how it's being run, it seems like it's a one-sided style of governance, whereby the very people who have made it to be, who have the final say, most of the in making very key decisions for many of the African countries are not really the citizens, but some few individuals who are in power, and which is a very worrying state, because why adopt something and then it becomes hard to implement that thing? Because this was adopted in 2015 by the heads of state, and they were in agreement, and other key stakeholders, that our key aspiration that by 2063 our Africa should be at this level. And so, putting in mind that we are in 2025, we have a few years before maybe we are at 2063, about 30 years from now, less than that. It is a puzzle if really we'll be able to hold on that, we'll be able to achieve on that, because if we still 30 or 40 years to then, but seeing at the current state, it does not promise us of an Africa where, but we have the respect to the rule of law, an Africa whereby we have justice, in everything that is done, because we have a lot of injustices. People are not being, there's no justice in many cases in Africa. And so our big question is, what are they doing, those who adopted this thing in 2015, what are they doing in making sure that they'll be able to really achieve this, by 2063? 2063 is not very far. And so looking at the current state, it does not really promise us for that. And so that's why the Change for African campaign comes in, because many of these people actually who adopted this, they want to be there by then. And so who will be there then? So if the kind of people who will be there then, since the current many of them will not be there, will still be of the same mentality, or will still be have been raised up in the same style of systems of governance in Africa, then it will be very hard for us to really achieve that, or that will remain to be a mere dream. And so the Change for African campaign comes in matters of governance, as that being a key aspiration, whereby we are trying to make sure that we are raising a new future for Africa, a young vibrant future for Africa, that as we progress into the future, we are having minds that are being raised, minds that we have sane minds, we have minds that are strategic, we have minds that are serious, we have minds that take things at heart, we have minds that are focused towards delivering, we have minds that are serious about things of Africa, we have minds that are concerned about the population of Africa, the young generation of Africa. Putting in mind that you all know this for a fact, that in Africa we are about 1.2 to 1.4 billion persons. Out of this, 60% of this population are the African youth. And so what are we doing to make sure that we are creating a better future for the African citizens? That is why the Change for African campaign comes in, because with respect to the current state of things in Africa, I can tell you for free that the Africa Agenda 2063 remains to be a mere dream. Because when you speak about the number three aspiration for this union, for the African Union, or for this agenda that was adopted in 2015, some 10 years ago, we do not see a very huge steps that have been made. Instead, we see very bad conditions continue to escalate in Africa. Injustices. Instead of justice, we have injustice in Africa. Instead of a democratic style of leadership, government, it is not democratic. Rather, everything is on paper, but then the practical part of it is not being done. Respect for human rights. Being there, but we have disrespect. To human rights in Africa. See, we are in Kenya today. See our neighbors, see Uganda, see there. You see what is happening there. We cannot say that we have respect for human rights. So it is still an issue that if we are not serious, this will mean to be paperwork. But we need the practical part of it. Remember, the practical is what we see. But the theories that have continued to walk across Africa, we have been having so many theories in Africa, and these theories do not help us. That is why sometimes I feel like the style of democracy in Africa, the countries that claim to be democracy, that governments that claim to be democratic, really, they are not democracy. Rather, I will use the example for Burkina Faso, putting in mind under the captain Ibrahim Traore. See at what is happening. Ibrahim Traore came in and overthrew a democratic government, or some coups that have been happening, the military coup that have been happening in Burkina. They have overthrown democratic government, because many democratic governments take advantage of their citizens, and that is what is ailing Africa. Because that style of governance, it is a style whereby it is only democratic during when these people want to have a chance to be elected, or to get in some positions of power. But then after that one, it becomes now, I'm in power, so I have to decide for everything. Instead, we have the right rules written that the people with sovereign power are the citizens of a nation, are the citizens of a continent. And so therefore, fellow Africans, the issue about good governance, the issue about democracy, the issue about respect to human rights, the issue about and rule of law, these are issues, and corruption, these are issues that if we are not keen at them, will continue to speak, just be continue to be theories, but no practical part of it. So it is high time that we implement these things, and putting in mind that the current I'm still focused on the current governance and political systems in Africa. If they do not style up, that is why the Change for African campaign is here, and we at this, and I will make sure that we are going to have all the youth of Africa from all the 54 sovereign states of Africa coming together, and this message should get to them. They should understand that if nothing is going to change unless they change their mentalities as young people, unless they change and wake up from the cocoons that they are in, and make it up to their obligation or obligatory concern that Africa needs to change. And so therefore, fellow Africans, I wish you an interesting afternoon. Let's meet tomorrow as we discuss our second pillar of the Change for African campaign, the potential that we have as an African continent. And thank you. God bless you. Let's meet tomorrow. Thank you.